Fynn the Fangbearer is back in Standard thanks to Foundations. But is it any good this time around? That's what we're going to find out today. Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another edition of Budget Magic. And this week, we're heading to Standard to do some Fynning. We are playing some Fynn the Fangbearer, Golgari in fact. So let's talk about our $87 deck, what it's trying to do, jump into some games and see the deck in action. So first off, we have our namesake card, Fynn the Fangbearer. And Fynn, super weird card. It's a 2-mana 1/3 with Death Touch. This says whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 2 poison counters. So Fynn, a recent returnee to Standard in Foundations. It was in Standard a few years ago, and the first time around, Fynn was horrible. The problem when Fynn was first in Standard is that it was literally the only card that existed in Standard that could give your opponent poison counters. There was no poison, there was no toxic, there was no proliferate. So the only way to build Fynn was to build a deck with a bunch of cheap Death Touch creatures and just like hope that you drew Fynn and then it stuck. If it died or you didn't draw it, you just had all these bad Death Touch creatures. Basically, the support didn't exist for Fynn to actually be a good card. But this time, things are different because we have toxic in Standard. So there's actually a ton of support to make Fynn work. For example, we have Billow's Skull Dweller, maybe the best card in the deck. 1-mana 1/1 Death Toucher with Toxic 1. So if we play that on turn 1 and Fynn on turn 2, we hit you with the Skull Dweller, our opponent's going to get 3 poison counters, 2 from Finn's ability, 1 from Toxic on Billow's Skull Dweller. So that by itself is like more support than Fynn ever had before. But we also get Venerated Rot Priest to give our opponent poison counters. Tiny Bones, it's our 1 Death Touch creature in the deck. Doesn't technically have poison, but it's just a 1-of. Bloated Contaminator, not only toxic, but proliferate. So once we get some poison counters, we can deal even more poison counters. So there's actually a pretty good shell to put Fynn in now that can really harness its power. We also have Necrogen Communion is another way to give our opponent some poison counters. We can enchant a creature, give it toxic 2, so it deals 2 poison counters, and when it dies, it gets to come back into play, so it works really well. Really on any of our creatures, it's like a hybrid way to deal poison counters and also protect one of our threats. Speaking of protection, we got a bunch of ways to protect our creatures. Tyver Stand, Royal Treatment to give hexproof. Honestly, after playing this deck a bunch, I would have just played 4 Royal Treatments, 2 Tyver Stands. It turns out pumping our creature doesn't really matter in this deck because we never actually win with real damage. It's always poison damage. So pumping our creature doesn't do anything, which means Royal Treatment, giving a Royal roll with hexproof is actually just like better. So I'd switch that a little bit. Really, 6 cards that can fizzle a targeted removal spell. Then we have Anointed Affliction for removal, Infectious Bite. Normally not a great removal spell. It's essentially a bite effect. A creature deals damage to one of our opponent's creatures, and our opponent gets a poison counter. But in our deck, it's actually kind of insane because we have all these cheap Death Touch creatures. So we can Infectious Bite with a Billow's Skull Dweller or a Fynn and just kill anything on the battlefield. So that's the deck. Play some toxic stuff, play some Death Touch stuff, play the Fynn, poison you out, protect our team, remove your stuff, win the game. Mana base, we even get some poison in the mana base with Thirsting Roots, so we're only playing 22 real lands, but that's because we have Thirsting Roots that can find a basic land, or it can proliferate. So this is the way we can get in that last point of poison. In the sideboard, a bunch of removal, Cease and Desist for graveyards, artifacts, and enchantments, Duress for control, and that is Fynfect for Foundation Standard. That's our Budget Magic deck for today, so let's jump into some games and see just how much better Fynn is today than it was in its first run in Standard. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoy it, and I will talk to you soon. Need some Magic cards? Well, you can snag them from our sponsor, Card Kingdom, over at cardkingdom.com/mtggoldfish. Want to help out the channel? Well, you can snag these super sweet new dice, playmats, tokens, and more over at mtggoldfishmerch.com. Budget Magic time. It is time for some Fynning in Standard. Fynn is back, and Fynn might actually be good this time. Last time Fynn was in Standard, there was literally no other ways to give your opponent poison. So Fynn decks were horrible, right? Because if you didn't draw your Fynn, you're just playing all these bad Death Touch creatures, or if Fynn died or whatever. But now we have actual toxic creatures, so it might be Finn's time to shine. This hand seems fine. I mean, Death Touch creature, removal, and then Thirsting Roots, which not great here, but sure, it can proliferate. Ooh. Venerated Rot Priest. Well, let's get down the Skull Dweller first, I think. Maybe we draw a protection spell to go with the Rot Priest. Keeping Rot Priest around is very powerful. Opponent Forest. And going up the Beanstalk, sure. Gonna draw a card. More lands. Well, let's get in with the Billows Skull-Dweller. Poison ya up to 1, and yeah, let's just Rot Priest, I guess. Pass the turn. I don't really want to Thirsting Roots for another land. I think at this point, like, if we don't have enough lands, obviously get the land. Otherwise, I think it's worth just holding to proliferate at some point. Kind of wish it was a protection spell, but what can you do? What does our opponent have? Overlord of the Hauntwoods. Gonna do a little ramping. Sure. Well, there's more. Man, I wish we had a Fynn. Fynn would be so good right now. That's his, I think Billows Skull-Dweller is the biggest reason to think that Fynn might be good right now. Get in at ya. Because if you go turn 1 Skull-Dweller, turn 2 Fynn, you just hit for 3 poison, which is kind of insane. Well, Skull-Dweller go. Kind of want our opponent to play a creature that we can Infectious Bite. Glisa. Okay, I mean, we can Infectious Bite that. Opponent looking at our Venerated Rot Priest. Well, okay, in that case, I think we Infectious Bite while we can get the extra poison counter. Yeah, let's, Billows Skull-Dweller. Damage to a Glissa. Infectious Bite, usually not very good, but it's very good with a bunch of Death Touch creatures. It's just pretty much instant speed hard removal. I mean, it's good, Bear. It's good. We're doing all right. We're doing all right. Ooh, oh, there's a protection a turn too late. The good news is, when it's all said and done, our opponent's up to 8 poison, and we have the roots in hand, so it's actually 9 poison. Let's just do it now. Let our opponent know. The flex. And it also has a counter to their Overlord, which is kind of cute. All right, opponent, can you stop 2 Billows Skull-Dwellers? That is your challenge. You got to do it this turn or you're dead. Opponent duresses, takes a peek. Sure. I don't think we cast anything. Bearby, we're good, bud. We're good. And opponent scoops it up. Bear does not seem to appreciate the victory. Bear, it's good, bud. We're winning. We're winning. What do we want from the sideboard? I don't know if Cease Desist is worth it in this matchup. They do have some Overlords, but Terra Sunder is probably just better. I think we mostly just do a little trim in and customize our removalist smidge. Bring in a Terra Sunder to deal with enchantments. The Duresses also seem... I'm not sure what our opponent's doing. They're Golgari, but they're not the typical Golgari midrange deck. They look like some sort of Golgari ramp deck, maybe? Golgari control? Maybe something like that. Bring in the Terra Sunders and then just trim across the board to make them fit. On to game number 2, we are going to be on the draw this game. I also like how cheap this deck is. The deck's very cheap to put together in paper or on Magic Arena. Magic Arena, you do need a few dual lands, but it's still pretty cheap. Well, I think we're gonna wait. The awkward part of this hand is we got no black mana, but up the beanstalk. But we do have the Rot Priest. Oh, another forest. That's awkward. Well, black mana, please. Venerated Rot Priest, go. I mean, we should draw some black mana, right? There is less dual lands in this deck than I would typically play. All right, opponent's gonna cut down the Rot Priest, but we're gonna tie for a stand. Rot Priest, so good. So good. Well, poison ya, and poison yourself. If we draw black mana, we're still doing okay here, sort of. Opponent, forest, and oh boy. All right, well, we're not gonna win the late game, that's for sure. That is for sure. Tyvar stand. So we can play the Contaminator, or we can protect the Rot Priest. Letting all of our mana go to waste feels so rough, but the Rot Priest is so good. Yeah, we gotta do it. So, ideally we want to protect our creatures, but with 2 up the beanstalks, we're losing the late game 100%. So, our hope is our opponent does not have too much removal. All right, cut down. Our hope is our opponent does not have too much removal and we can jank him out, but that's seeming less likely. Opponent, anoint with Affliction. All right, well, threats dealt with, and duress, yeah, this might be a quick one. Oh, the good old color screw. I mean, our deck is playing less dual lands than it typically would, right? Just to keep the budget down. So the odds of color screw up a little bit, but still, it should be fine. Like, we have, I think, like 6 of each basic and then a bunch of dual lands. So we still should be okay, I think. Plus, we have roots that can get a swamp, but this one, I think. And Glissa, black mana. Oh, all right. Well, the Magic gods do not want us to play this game. Let's draw some black mana. The hand wasn't bad either. We just could not cast our spells. Yes, we would like to play first. And okay, this is actually a very good hand. No Fynn, but still, our mana's good. We got threats, we got removal. Plus, I mean, Bill of Skull Dweller. Unbeatable. No one beats the Skull Dweller. All right, opponent. Opponent. Well, it depends on the removal situation. All right, takes Infectious Bite. So taking Infectious Bite makes me think our opponent does not have a removal heavy hand. I feel like if you have a removal heavy hand, then you can probably blow us out in response to Infectious Bite anyway. Let's Thirsting Roots for a Schwamp. All right. Well, I mean, 2 Squall-Dellers. Oh, Fynn would be so sweet here. Opponent. Passing? Okay. Let's play the Swamp since they know about it. The other thing I like about this deck is Death Touch is just a good ability. All right, opponent. Well, so much for our they don't have much removal theory. But now that they've spent the go for the throw, they definitely don't have much removal left, right? Can we stick a creature or two? How about this Bloated Contaminator, Glissa? Well, we have an answer to that in the Terra Sunder, an expensive answer, but all right. Terra Sunder the Glissa and get in for what, 3? So our opponent's up to 5? The Raw Priest I feel like is a good draw. The Raw Priest should be good, because eventually they're going to have to kill our stuff, so it should be at least 1 guaranteed poison. Discounting a Wrath. The Wrath could get around it, but opponent. Terra Sunder. Oh, this is fine for us. This is fine. And another Skull Dweller. All right, we'll get in with the Contaminator. Hit ya up to 6. Proliferate you to 7. And what about a Wrath? Yeah, we're just going to run it out. We're just going to present lethal for next turn. If they got a Wrath, they could get us. If they don't have a Wrath, they are almost certainly dead. Potentially even through a blocker, depending on what we draw. They're dead through a fish, right? Because Trample on the Contaminator. So it hits for 2, block there. Yeah, so they're dead through the fish. They need something better than that. Overlord, okay. Skull Dweller. Well, go to combat attack. Not lethal, but our opponent is going to go up to 9. So they are dead to any toxic attack, any proliferate effect. Oh, we're so close. We're so close. And that's a GG, and that's a GG, and opponent scoops it up, and all right, that went pretty well. That went pretty well, even against a deck that had a decent amount of removal. So, all right. Well, we didn't get to see Fynn pop off, but maybe next game. Budget Magic time. We are doing some Finning in Standard. Seeing if Fynn is actually good in Standard its second time around, thanks to a bunch of toxic creatures that did not exist. Fynn was so funny the first time. It was clearly a commander card because, my god, was it impossible to make Fynn work in that Standard. There was just no support for it. No support. But now we actually have a ton of support. Well, let's Thirsting Roots. Snag a forest and go. Sounds interesting. I like the 2 royal treatments. We just need to... Oh, Simic? Ah, okay. Crabs. Our deck actually might be good against crabs. I feel like crabs is just a really good deck, and almost no matter what I'm playing, I feel like I have a hard time beating that deck. But I feel like a bunch of cheap Death Touch creatures is probably actually insane against the deck trying to play 5/5s. Well... Against this deck, we're going to run out the Contaminator. I think if we were playing against Mono Black or something, I think there'd be much more of an argument to waiting 1 more turn to leave up the Royal treatment. But we've played this deck. They don't believe in removal. Like, their removal is bounce, right? Their removal is bounce. So worst case, they like unsummon, and we're where we were anyway, so we might as well run it out. Do we have some crabs? Is it time for Itinerarian Terror? No. Well, more Contaminators. All right. Well, get in, hit you. All right. There's the Eddie Money Crab. Sure. I guess, do we just Royal Treatment? Yeah. I mean, so this gives Ward 2, which is nice. Ward 1. Ward also, not Ward of 2. Ward in addition to everything else. Get in, hit you. All right, up to 2. And then I guess we can just Infectious Bite. Actually, we probably should just Infectious Bite. Yeah, let's just get rid of this crab. We know our opponent can't unsummon or whatever because of the ward, so good time to do that. Well, crab 1 dealt with. The other thing about the crab deck is it's much scarier when there's up the beanstalk. When there's Boy, perfect timing for that. When there's not an Up the Beanstalk, the deck can run out of action. When there is an Up the Beanstalk, the deck almost never runs out of action. Well, let's get down the Rot Priest in case their opponent wants to unsummon. Get in, hit ya. Up to 4, proliferate to 5. Yeah, I mean, I think we just Contaminate her. All right, shields are down, opponent. Show us your crabs. I mean, we're actually kind of close to... Opponent needs some crabs, right? Because we're actually pretty close to winning here. Opponent, passing. Sadly, or maybe thankfully overall, but Venerated Rot Priest only works with... all right, there's Eddie Money Crab. Only works with spells, so we don't get a poison off of our opponent tapping down our stuff. The Contaminators make the most sense, but then they do have to pay the ward if they want to get both of them, which they might not care about. Yeah, opponent's going to go double Contaminator tap. Yep. We'll just let it go this turn. We'll let it go. Opponent going to Cachet Grab. Do they find... Okay, that's fine. Just another land. Thankfully not another Eddie Merc Crab. The Eddie Merc Crab's not, like, killing us, but it is annoying us. All right, Tellurian Terror draws without the Beanstalk. This is where the deck starts to feel pretty powerful. Like, once you get up the Beanstalk and start drawing, you find another up the Beanstalk, and then eventually it's like 1 mana, draw 3, get a 5/5, and then you just can't lose. Cash Grab number 2. All right, no Eddie Money Crab. Do we get to win this turn? A definite maybe. If they have another Eddie Merc Crab, then no. But double Rot Priest. So we have 2 poison for sure. If we just draw another Royal Treatment or something that can target, we just win directly without even needing to attack. Okay, opponent gonna analyze the pollen. I assume to get another Eddie Merc Crab. Let's just draw another Royal Treatment or something. That would be the easiest. If we just draw that, we don't have to worry. Wow, that is aggro. So I guess our opponent's trying to set up the win next turn, but I think this might actually kill them. All right, we just draw land, but we should win now, right? Because we can, okay, so if we go to combat, they're gonna Eddie Merc Crab. They can only target 1 Contaminator because of ward. That ward's actually oddly relevant this game. So opponent, here comes Eddie Merc. Draws with up the Beanstalk. So they have to go Contaminator Rot Priest, right? And then whatever Contaminator they target, we can Royal Treatment, 2 poison, and then we have 3 attackers, they have 1 blocker. The funny thing is, if our opponent had left back the Eddie Merc that attacked, they might have stabilized here. Wow! That was ridiculously close. But yeah, our opponent, little too aggressive, I think. They needed that crab on defense. I mean, they didn't know what we had, so I don't know if it was necessarily a punt, but with the benefit of hindsight and knowing our hand, it would have went better for them. So we're going to bring in more things that can kill 5/5s, like Go for the Throat. Also, the Terror Sunder is not bad. They have the Up the Beanstalks, which are very powerful in the deck. And yeah, just do a little trimming. Run it like that. All right, on to game number 2 against Simic Crabs. Playing some Fynn Fact. Oh, there's a Fynn. Okay, doing it. Skull Dweller into Fynn, the Dream, and this is against a deck that shouldn't have removal, right? Simic Crabs does not play real removal. Well, let's get on the Skull Dweller. See if we can pull off the Fynn combo here. Opponent, Seed of Hope to mill a couple cards. I kind of hate Seed of Hope in that deck, but I think it's probably... Oh. Wait, are we in a different match? What is happening? Black mana, nowhere to run. Are they like... Do they have a bunch of swamps in their sideboard? What is... Where did that come... We saw a lot of their deck last game, and there was no black mana. Nowhere to run. This might be a very unique sideboard plan. Either that or we just... They're playing in the main and we didn't see it, but you got to play a lot, right, if you're going to do this consistently. You can't just play a swamp. Well, let's get down the Rot Priest. So much for our Fynn combo. Ah, that was going to be sweet. Thankfully, we still have a Fynn. Just a little Fynn fact. Into the Flood Maw. Well, okay. Instead, you will get Rot Priest. That is your punishment for bouncing our Fynn. And, yeah, run out the Fynn again. Fynn to win this match. Bone it. Land in. Just let us poison you. It's fine. It's fine, opponent. Just take it. Play the swap. Go to combat. Eddie Crab. Opponent's got to take some damage, although I don't think that's super relevant this matchup. I mean, this is kind of, I mean, it's not ideal. We'd rather just be hitting our opponent with the Fynn, but we can Infectious Bite to fight down the Eddie Crab. Pass. So opponent's up to 3. Passing. Schwamp. Well, go to combat. Are we doing it again? All right. Eddie Crab number 2. Tabs down our stuff. And, well, kill the crab. This is like instant replay of last turn. Okay, or at least that's 2 Eddie Crabs down, which is 2 less that we have to worry about in the future. So that's something. That's something. And these Thirsting Roots, it'd be kind of funny to win with Thirsting Roots. Get in that last poison with the Proliferate. Opponent passing. Well, there's a Contaminator. All right. I was thinking about this crab deck. Oh my god. All right. Tears us under the Fynn. Well, I mean, even though we never got in a hit with Fynn did a lot of work that game. Like, our opponent really had to focus on the Fynn. Spend a lot of mana and removal trying to deal with the Fynn. So I feel like it's still... All right, Tolarian Terror. It was still very good, even though we never technically got in the hit with it. All right, go for the throw. Speaking of very good, kind of the perfect situation for that. Yeah, I mean, Tolarian Terror, kill it, pay the ward, and wow, we're so close. So we hit our opponent up. Oh, if we had 1 more mana, we could get the double. Oh, they got bounce. All right, this town ain't big enough. We could get the double Thirsting Roots win. Well, hit ya. Opponent up to 7. Well, Thirsting Roots proliferate ya up to 8. While your opponent's tapped out. Pass the turn. So they can kill the Rot Priest in a way that doesn't get a poison counter. Let's see what this last card is. Tolarian Terror. Well, okay. Let's a bloated Contaminator. Billow Skull Dweller. We might get the Thirsting Roots win yet. We still got a chance. We still got a chance about it. Hit ya. I mean, this should be game, right? Thanks to Thirsting Roots. Opponent gonna block the Contaminator. Up to 9, and we did it. We achieved our side quest. Thirsting Roots for lethal. And that was like a real lethal. That wasn't like, we could have won it another way, but we did it with Thirsting Roots. That was, if we didn't have Thirsting Roots, we might not win that game. Like, we might actually lose. So Thirsting Roots, the real hero, in fact. We are doing some Finning in Standard. Oh, we're gonna keep this. Magic Gods, show us some green mana. The beauty of budget decks. Schwamp. Well, land and Billow Skull Dweller. I mean, at least we can do a decent amount with just black mana here. Go for the Throat the Skull Dweller. Okay. Well, at least we traded up in mana, not green mana. Well, let's play the Ton of Bones and land. And see what our opponent's got. Schwamp. And cuts down the Tiny Bones. They must have just drawn that, or they would have... Ah, thank goodness. Okay. I mean, they've already used 2 removal spells. What are the odds they got a 3rd? High, apparently. Go for the throat number 2. All right. Opponent came prepared with removal. I will give them credit for that. And misses it. They have more removal than lands. Well, how about a Venerated Rot Priest? Can we stick a dang threat? Opponent attacks. Land and man, oh boy, these Anoint with Afflictions looking real sad at the moment. real sad. Oh, but seriously, double Bloodletter back Lazats, and that means we are pretty dead if we don't top deck Infection. Oh man, yep. Well, let's bring in a little bit more removal. I guess just do some trimming, maybe like a Contaminator. Tiber Stand, run it like that. On to game number 2. We're gonna keep it. 5 lands is way more than we want with this deck, because we're not a card draw deck, but Billow Skull Dweller into Fynn is an intoxicating start. Ugh, cut down. Yeah, probably ambitious to hope that it was gonna work against this deck that is apparently just playing a lot of removal. Opponent, Schwamp, and cut down number 2 on the Fynn. All right, well, we will. Oh, no, this is like an instant replay of the horrors of last game. Anoint with Affliction. Well, okay. At least we can do something useful with Anoint with Affliction. Anoint with Affliction's really good, But it's kind of trusting. Well, here's a Contaminator. Can you stop killing our stuff for 2 seconds, opponent? It's very good, but to kill the bigger things, we need to get in at least some poison. And we have just not been getting in some poison this match. Well, annoying. I mean, sniping the slashers is super good. Hit ya, proliferate ya. Well, now getting the third poison, not as important since we spent Ritual Chamber. Well, we can kill the demon. I mean, we need to draw some action here, but we're kind of in this. So get rid of the demon. Opponent goes to 4. Oh, right, it's not on yet. Another land is bad. Down to 12. Up to 3. Up to 4. If our opponent does not have another demon, we only need like 2 more turns and we win with natural damage. All right, opponent, Unholy Annex, draws a card. Infectious Bite. Come on, tell me it wasn't removal. Oh, it was removal, wasn't it? Children's Edict. Well, opponent has a variety of powerful removal spells. And, oh, there's the demon. And Duress our Infectious Bite. Yeah, see, the upside of this deck is it's very explosive. And I think it's relatively good at winning in the early and mid game. The bad news is, our deck is not going to recover from situations like this. Because we don't have Caretaker's Talent or Unholy. We don't have some card draw engine for when we run out of things to do. So we just kind of rely on the top of our deck, and we're mostly drawing 1 and 2 drops or things to target them with, which is not going to beat a bunch of demons. Bounty gets in, hits us. And yeah, so this was another Infectious Bite. Yeah. Well, that was brutal. Playing some Golgari, Fynn, Poison, Death Touch, Toxic, etc. Cool. All right. Well, this hand's a little sketch because we don't have black mana, but we do have 2 Venerated Rot Priests and a Fynn. And 2 Venerated Rot Priests can sometimes just win the game accidentally. Now let's see what our opponent's up to. Blue mana, eh? Sadly, Venerated Rot Priest, as good as it is, does not have Death Touch, so it doesn't combo with Fynn the way Skull Dweller does. Yeah, let's just Rot Priest. Double Rot Priest is good removal punishment, so if our opponent wants to kill our stuff, it's at least going to cost him 2 poison. Well, I mean, now we're going to play the Fynn because we don't have anything else to do. We're just wandering around the woods poisoning people, living the Fynn life. Well, getting hit yet. Oh, come on now. Oh, all right, so we threw away Venerated Rot Priest for nothing. I guess probably should have saw that coming, although, honestly, have not seen Virtue nearly as much as we used to. It used to be a very popular thing. Now I play against Virtue very infrequently. I think it's because there's so much good enchantment removal now. Like, enchantments got so good that people are prepared for enchantments. Well, okay, Thirsting Root's going to be the hero again, but for a very different reason this game, which is getting us a Schwamp. Maybe Thirsting Roots is just the best card in our deck, as ridiculous as that sounds. Well, play the land. We can't really attack, but we can play a Bill Skull Dweller. All right, gonna get lost the Fynn. Man, Fynn is a removal target, isn't it? I've never seen a 2-drop die more than Fynn does every time someone tries to kill that. And opponent, we getting in with the knight? No. Passing. Ton of bones. Yeah, let's crack a map on the Rot Priest. See if we can hit a land drop, perhaps. All right, force is fine. I guess we can just play the Contaminator. Do a pre-combat to see if they counter. All right, they do not. So flash creature is a possibility. We're just gonna pass. Oh, they might be a flash deck. That's possible. Fairy Mastermind. They at least have a lot of flash stuff, which is going to make attacking annoying. But as I was saying about Virtue, it used to be really good when enchantments were worse because it was less likely to die. But then enchantments got really good, and every deck is prepared for enchantments now. Ooh, Royal Treatment. Does that do anything? And now Virtue, I think, has gotten worse. It's still a very powerful card. It's just less likely to stick on the battlefield and be powerful. So time for some Necrogen Communion. I think we put that on the Contaminator. We have the Royal Roll, so hopefully... All right, opponent's going to Tidebinder to stop the Rot Priest. I'm hoping we can get a blowout with this Royal Roll. A Contaminator with the Necrogen Communion is actually a lot of toxic. Top card. All right, more Rot Priests. Yeah, I mean, I think that's worth keeping. Hornlock Whale. Well, okay. That's a little unfortunate because it means that now our opponent's going to know. The good news is They only have 5 toughness and we have 6 power, so I think this Contaminator is getting through, which is what, 4 poison? And then we also have the Skull Dweller, so it's 5, so opponent goes to 8. And we get back the Contaminator, and our opponent loses their board. That worked out amazingly. So opponent loses their board, goes up to 7. We get back in, opponent just scoops it up. Necrogen Communion, actually super good that game. Like, really oddly good. All right, well, bring in the Terra Sunders. More removal, plus they get enchantments. I'm still not sure what our opponent's deck is, exactly. Like, obviously, it's some sort of Azorius creature deck, I guess? Flash deck, maybe? But I don't know exactly what they're up to over there. Do a bit of trimming, bring in a bit more removal. Kind of the same sideboarding almost every match. Like, trim a little bit, bring in a little bit better removal, and hope for the best. Let's try it like that. Oh, okay. Fynn hand, Fynn hand. We got the Fynn hand. Double Bill Skull Dweller and Fynn. Come on. I just want to get the 3 poison once. Can you just not kill our Fynn? For 1 turn. 1 turn. All I want's 1 turn with Fynn. He just wants to poison ya. You know what? Let's wait. Our opponent's leaving up mana. Let's play Skull Dweller. Let's play the Rot Priest. This makes Fynn next turn even better if it works. Opponent, Virtue of Loyalty. All right, Virtue of Loyalty, no blocks. Opponent, land, passing. Well, land number 3 is fine. So we can kill the token. We Necrogen Communion a Skull Dweller, I guess? That seems silly. Yeah, let's play Tiny Bones. And yeah, I mean, we gotta do it, right? We gotta do it. We came here to Fynn. No more lies. See, our opponent, they could have countered the Tiny Bones, but instead they waited for the Fynn. Fynn is like, Fynn might be one of the most hated cards in Standard. Everyone's out for the Fynn. Everyone's out for the Fynn every time. Opponent, pass it. Oh, it would be so much better if Fynn was out. Wow, they're gonna block finally? All right, opponent. Gonna block. We're gonna let it go. We could kill it, but I think we're okay with losing one of our many Skull Dwellers. A little bit worried about Sunfall here, so we're gonna hold this Skull Dweller. Yeah. Okay, so this is where things are getting sketchy. We talked about this earlier. We're really an early game deck, right? We need to win relatively quickly. We do not have a very good late game plan. Yeah, let's just Skull Dweller go. Opponent's at 4, so that's something. Like, we have done a bit of our job, but getting from 4 to 6, at least they don't have a card advantage engine. So they are also not drawing an absurd number of cards. That's where it gets impossible, right? When the opponent has Caretaker's Talent or Unholy Annex or Up the Beanstalk, and you don't, you're just not winning the late game. There's no way. Opponent takes it. All right, up to 5. And, oh, Aaron Yada. Okay, so they are actually like a flash deck, basically. That makes sense. Passing. More swamps. Oh, opponent. Phantom Interference to make it 2/2. Down to 18. Anoint with Affliction. Well, let's see if we can get rid of this Aaron Yada. All right, that's good at least. They're just gonna trade. Yeah, it's awkward. I don't know how we do this. Tishana's Tideminder. Come on, deck. We need some more lands. Yeah. We're never going to be able to get in those last pieces of poison. The deck is awkward like that. Like, it gets these really fast wins, but then you get these weird stall-out games where you just, like, draw a bunch of lands and don't do anything. And that happens, and you scoop early. Do we want to change our sideboarding plan at all? Like, now that we've seen Sunfall and these counters, the duresses seem relevant. They don't have a ton of removal. Yeah, let's try it like that. All right, we got a Fynn. We got a Fynn. We don't have a 1-drop to go with it, and we kind of have a lot of lands, but we have a Fynn. Opponent. What do we got? Going to 6, our dear opponent. You gonna lean on the tap land. All right, well, I mean, ooh, there's a Rot Priest. Would have been better last turn, but we got to do it. Fynn time. Okay, opponent. Can we not kill the Fynn? Infectious Bite. Let's play the Swamp. The opponent's going to get lost. Fynn. So good at dying. Well, let's see if we can grow this Rot Priest. Infectious Bite. I think Infectious Bite's actually pretty good. I don't know if we'd keep it if we the second one if we didn't have the Rot Priest, but with a Rot Priest, it's most likely kill your thing, you take 2 poison, which is kind of insane. Well, play the land, go to combat, get in with the Rot Priest. All right, opponent, up to 1 poison. Let's play Bloaty. Errant Ingiata, sure. I don't know if I've ever seen a really good Errant Ingiata deck. It's interesting enough that it seems like there should be an Errant Ingiata deck. I've just never seen one that actually was as good as you would hope. If they got flash creatures, the infectious bites can keep our stuff alive, hopefully. Also, outscaling Elspeth's Smite. Opponent, Virtue of Loyalty. I mean, they know about an infectious bite. Well, okay, maybe. I was gonna say so they can't block too aggressively, but apparently they can. So, infectious bite, kill the. They're both gonna die anyway. I guess kill the Errant Ingiata. Poison ya. So opponent's up to 3. Yeah, I think we just let it go. We could kill the Errant Ingiata. The only risk would be Sunfall. Like, if they Sunfall here, it's still bad for us. Well, let's proliferate you up to 5. We also have the Thirsting Roots, our hero, the best card in our deck. Dear Thirsting Roots. An opponent, wow, scoops it up. Okay, it's kind of working. Yeah, this end looks fine. Tiny Bones and some more. Oh boy, aggro, lizards. All right, go Tiny Bones. All right, let's see how this goes. I mean, we have a bunch of Death Touchers, which is good, but we also have a bunch of cards that I don't know are like protection spells and such. I don't know how effective they're going to be against aggro. This Necrogen Communion. Ooh. Opponent, gonna do some undead sprinting. How can we realistically win this game? Do we block with Tiny Bones? I think we gotta take it for now. Down to 16. If we draw Fynn, Tiny Bones is good. Worst case, we can do a little Necrogen Communioning. Turn our Tiny Bones toxic up to 2. Also, if it dies, it comes back. It makes it much better as a blocker. If we do need to block with Tiny Bones, at least we can block and get it back. And all right, Burst Lightning on the Tiny Bones. Well, it's coming back anyway. Now do we trade? Opponent pings us down to 15. I think we just trade with the Hired Claw. We got in 2 poison. We can proliferate up to 3 if we need to. And now we get to get down to 4/4, and our opponent missed their land drop, which is kind of huge here. We need this Contaminator to live, ideally. If our opponent can just kill it. Oh, come on, opponent. Come on, opponent. Ooh, all right. Opponent. Go for the throat. Smacks us to 11. Infectious Bite. Okay. That can get rid of this Undead Slasher. I think we do it now. We do it now during our turn, so they can't recast it if they have another creature die. And we get around a removal spell. I mean, we do have double proliferate in hand, so if we can get our opponent closer to 10 poison, we might be able to just Thirsting Roots them. All-Star Thirsting Roots opponent. And no, wow, that's so many roots. So many roots. Well, no attacks. Actually, it would be hilarious if we could have gotten a little more poison. We might have just been able to, oh, new Alicia. Well, that's real bad for us. All right, let's draw some removal. So Alicia gonna start reanimating things like the Hired Claw, Tyvar's Stand. I don't know how we do this realistically through the Alicia anyway. The problem is we kill it, but it just comes back. Yeah, I mean, kill the Hired Claw. Yeah, there's no coming back from it with this hand. Alicia. All right, well, we get some sweepers. The Alicia looked good there. I actually, during spoiler season, I had the idea to build pretty much that deck, like a Rakdos Alicia deck, where you just played 2 drops to get him in the graveyard. Cool to see someone doing it. I haven't gotten around to building it yet, but our opponent's deck seems like a cool version of it. Well, we're going to go up some removals and do a little trimming. Ugh. Well, there's all of our Finns, but none of our lands. This we gotta keep. This hand, kind of a lot of lands, only 1 creature. The removal spells should be good. Like, Cut Down does answer Alicia, which is nice. Put a Swamp to the bottom. All right, opponent, down to 6. Well, we'll start with the land. Opponent. Verge, and oh boy. Oh dear. All right. Oh, not looking great. Well, I mean, at least we're not gonna die quickly. It doesn't look like we're going to kill our opponent quickly. FOMO. Yeah, well, I mean, we do need... That's probably one of the best Alicia cards. Loots to fill the graveyard for Alicia. Opponent discards a Cut Down. So opponent discarding Cut Down makes me think they're probably holding another removal spell. Not the best time for Necrogen Communion. Opponent. FOMO. Wow, they already have Delirium on too. FOMO number 2 pitches a land. Yeah, I mean, we gotta kill it. It's gonna start getting 2 attacks in anyway. So, FOMO down. Well, there's a Fynn. I kind of feel like our opponent has another removal spell. I don't think you discard the cut down unless you have another removal spell in hand. So I'm expecting Finn's gonna die, but I don't know what else we can really do. It's not like we have a protection spell in hand that we can wait and protect it or something. Opponent does have a Bitter Triumph. Oh, we need a Death Touch creature to go with these Infectious Bites. Opponent Mountain and Alicia. Well, let's play Bloaty. Thankfully, Alicia does need Raid to be triggered. So if our opponent can't kill the Bloated Contaminator, they can't attack with Alicia, they can't reanimate. If they can kill the Bloated Contaminator, then things become very scary for us. Undead Sprinter, okay. Does not get through a 4/4. Gonna go attacking. Yeah, I mean, we gotta take it. If we block, then they can Disperse Lightning the Contaminator. Ugh, all right, that's a lot of 2-drops. How many 2-drops can Fynn defeat? Opponent draws a card. We drop to 16. I mean, these Infectious Bites are finally going to be good. So Infectious Bite, take down... Can we get more value by attacking? If we attack first, could they block in a way that we blow them out? We could Necrogen Communion. Attack. If it dies, it comes back. Yeah, let's just swing, see what our opponent does. I mean, our Infectious Bites are instants anyway. So our Infectious Bites are going to work whenever we want to. Leave the choice to our opponents. See how they want to block, if they want to block. They do know about one of the Infectious Bites. All right, opponent's going to take it. Well, in that case, we got to kill the Alicia. And we probably actually have to kill the FOMO. Since it gets extra combats, well, kill them both. Hit ya, proliferate ya. Well, all of a sudden, our opponent's up to 4 poison. That was a pretty good turn. We almost took half of our opponent's life total there. Almost. But we are kind of out of action. Although, Communion on this Contaminator is a lot of poison. 3, 4, 5? Wait, we almost just kill our opponent next turn? No, 3, 4, so we're 2 short. Opponent hits us down to 12. Oh, wait, does this let us win? So Venerated Rot Priest, Necrogen Communion, poisoning to 5. So now Contaminator has Toxic 3 and Proliferate, so we can put our opponent to 9? Wow, they killed themselves. All right, well, that actually gives us Xaxes. Our opponent had to not burst lightning. Oh, wow. We did not deserve to win that. That game went so poorly. I do not know how we won that game. Well, opponent up to 9, and the Proliferate makes 10, and wow, that was an unlikely win. I felt like we were so far behind that entire game, and then it took 2 turns with that Bloated Contaminator and our opponent burst lightning our Venerated Rot Priest to sneak it out. Well, I mean, yeah. All right, on to game number 3. Can we take down Rakdos Alicia, I guess? With some Fynn Infect action. All right, this ends fine. I mean, we can wait and Rot Priest on turn 2 to protect it with Royal Treatment, and then Contaminator on 3. Seems reasonable, at least. What do you got, opponent? Opponent leads on the Pain Land. We draw even more lands, which is kind of sad. Yeah, we're going to wait on the Rot Priest. With a protection spell in hand, especially one that triggers the Rot Priest, there's just no reason to risk it here. Virgin. And, all right, silly Delirium burn dude. Well, Venerated Rot Priest, go. After I played this deck a bunch, I'm pretty sure Royal Treatment's just better than Tyvar's Stand. If I was building the deck now, I'd probably just play 4 Royal Treatments in 0 Tyvar Stands. Because we have Toxic, right? So pumping our creature's power is not usually relevant. I think the ward from Royal Treatment is oddly in this deck more important than the pump. Ugh, even more lands. Let's get in for a poison. I think we're going to wait on Bloaty. I think this turn, leave up protection, Anoint with Affliction, something. Anything. Just get a body off the battlefield. All right, probably one of these Undead Sprinters. I guess a pretty good thing to exile so it can't come back later. Well, Anoint you, crazy high school zombie. And opponent's deck's a little less scary when they don't have Delirium going. Ooh. Ooh, well, Yeah, we're still gonna play Bloated Contaminator. We saw last game that Necrogen Communion works really well on Contaminator. Was thinking about just putting on the Rot Priest, but I think this is fine. Like, we have the Royal Treatment for defense. Opponent, Bitter Triumph, takes 1. Well, we will Royal Treatment, protect our Bloated Contaminator, hit you up to 4. 5, 6, 7, 8. We're actually super close to just winning with the combo of Bloated Contaminator and Necrogen Communion, which is apparently... There's a Fynn. There's a Fynn. Does that matter? I mean, we're going to play it. That's what it was all about. Get down the Fynn and have a little Communion. Poison ya. 5. I mean, our opponent can triple block. It does work, but the Contaminator is going to come back, and we almost wrath our opponent's board, then keep the Sprinter. So opponent, no poison. No poison, but their board is pretty much Wrath, and Bloaty back in action, and opponent scoops it up, and Fynn getting the job done. But I guess that's something for the wrap-up. Be right back. So what did we learn this week about Fynn the Fangbearer in Foundation Standard? And overall, we went 4-3 with the deck, so fine record for a budget deck. And I think the deck actually felt pretty good, although it's kind of a weird deck. We're in a Standard where there's a lot of decks that are really good at grinding. You have a Caretaker's Talent, Unholy Annex, all these card advantage engines. So you run into a lot of these mid-range and control decks that are just like generating a ton of card advantage. Our deck doesn't do that at all. We are very much an aggro early game that deck, and you got to see that in some of our matches where we ended up like scooping at 15 life or something just because our opponent had essentially taken control of the game. We didn't have any cards, and our deck just doesn't really have a way to recover. So keep that in mind. If you're going to play this deck, you really want to focus on keeping hands that can close out the game relatively quickly. Like, we're just not going to go toe-to-toe with an Unholy Annex or a Caretaker's Talent in the late game, so we really want to kill our opponent quickly. The good news is, the deck was actually pretty good at killing opponents quickly. Venerated Rot Priest, obviously absurd. We never actually pulled off the Billow Skulldweller Fynn plan. We tried it a bunch of times, but our opponent, turns out, really likes killing Fynn. That's probably the biggest problem with Fynn, but the deck felt so much better than past Fynn decks, because as you got to see in the past, like we talked about in the deck tech, in the old version of Fynn, you'd play the Fynn, your opponent would kill the Fynn, and then you just get all these bad Death Touch creatures. Maybe your opponent has 2 or 4 poison, but you get all these Death Touch creatures that don't deal poison. As we saw today, thanks to Toxic and the support we have for Fynn now, our opponents were still very focused on killing Fynn, but it didn't really matter because we could get in an attack or 2 with the Fynn, get a little poison, and then use the rest of our stuff, our Proliferate, our Toxic creatures to close out the game. So if you like poisoning people, and you like Fynn, and you like aggro decks, I think that in fact actually a pretty reasonable budget deck for Foundation Standard. So anyway, that's Fynn Fact. That's our budget magic for this week. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will talk to you soon.